Welcome to the webinar on fuel tax credits. Today's presenter is Michael Hughes. Michael is a Risk and Strategy Director at the Australian Taxation Office in the Small Business Excise Experience branch, leading a team responsible for designing and delivering strategies to mitigate key risks of fuel tax credits. His team develops innovative preventative treatments such as web-based guidance, self-help tools, and simplified compliance measures like safe harbors to make claiming easier, while also reviewing claims to detect and address errors or deliberate overclaiming. Thank you, Michael. Over to you.
Great, thank you, and thank you for having me today to talk to your members regarding fuel tax credits. Today's session is going to cover what are fuel tax credits, who can claim, how to calculate your claim, how to claim the fuel tax credits, record keeping, and tips and tricks to help businesses claim what they're entitled to and how to get it right. So the first question, I guess, is what are fuel tax credits? And fuel tax credits provide businesses with a credit for the fuel tax, which is excise or customs duty, that's included in the price of fuel used. You may have heard of these referred to as fuel rebates or diesel rebates. The amount of the credit you can claim will depend on a number of factors that I will cover in more detail, but will include what type of fuel you used, what you used the fuel in or for, and when you acquired the fuel. You can claim fuel tax credits for eligible fuel you've acquired, manufactured, or imported, and use in most activities in your business. So essentially, if you have acquired fuel for use in your business, you may be entitled to a fuel tax credit. Importantly, before you can claim fuel tax credits, you must be registered for GST at the time you acquired the fuel, and you need to be registered for fuel tax credits when you actually lodge your claim. So as long as you were registered for GST when you acquired the fuel, you can still register for fuel tax credits at a later time. Before you register, you may wish to check your eligibility to claim by using the fuel tax credit eligibility tool, which you can find at the link on this presentation. The eligibility tool will step you through the criteria that I mentioned earlier, that is the types of eligible fuel and how you used it. But to give you a quick overview now, the types of eligible fuels include liquid fuels such as diesel and petrol, common fuel blends such as B5, B20 and E10. But note, the rate you can claim for other blends such as a B30 or an E85 will depend on the amount of biodiesel or fuel ethanol in each blend. You can also claim for certain gaseous fuels where there was excise or customs duty paid on them. Gaseous fuels can include liquefied petroleum gas, liquefied natural gas, and compressed natural gas. Eligible activities include road transport, so for eligible fuel used in heavy vehicles, both on and off public roads. Your heavy vehicle needs to have a gross vehicle mass of more than 4.5 tonnes and used in carrying on a business. You may also use fuel in other equipment, whether it is attached to your heavy vehicle or not, such as generators, earth-moving equipment, or auxiliary equipment powered by your vehicle. But you may not be able to claim for all fuel. There are some exceptions. You can't claim fuel tax credits for ineligible fuels and activities, such as fuel used in light vehicles, that is those under 4.5 tonnes on public roads. You can't claim if your vehicle or heavy diesel vehicle is used on a public road but does not meet the environmental criteria. And that generally applies to vehicles that were manufactured prior to 1996. You can't claim for fuel used for private purposes or for fuel that you acquired but didn't actually use because it was lost, stolen, or otherwise disposed of. or fuel that had no excise or customs duty paid on it. Importantly, you can't claim for diesel exhaust fluid or other engine additives. Okay, so now that it looks like you may be eligible to claim fuel tax credits, you can register. To register, you can use a number of different channels, including ATO online services for business. You can approach your tax or BAS agent, or you can use the automated self-help service on 137226. Just remember to have your ABN handy. You can find out more at the link in this presentation. Now that you're registered, your next business activity statement that you receive will now include the fuel tax credit labels for you to claim. As I mentioned at the beginning, calculating your fuel tax credit will require you to consider the type of fuel, how you used it, and what is the applicable fuel tax credit rate to use. You'll need to work out the volume of fuel used in different activities to make sure you have used the correct rates. For example, if you use fuel in your heavy vehicle, the fuel you use to travel on public roads will attract one rate of fuel tax credit. If, however, you also power auxiliary equipment on your heavy vehicle, such as a refrigerated trailer or crane, that fuel would attract a higher fuel tax credit rate. Also, fuel tax credit rates change regularly. They change twice a year in February and August in line with the Consumer Price Index. They also change on 1 July due to changes in the road user charge. To ensure your claim is accurate, you need to use the rate that applies to the date you acquired the fuel. Using outdated rates and claiming for ineligible fuel or activities are common errors that we see businesses make. The easiest way to get the right rates is to use our fuel tax credit calculator, which will help you work out the right rates to use and what to put on your BAS. You can find both the calculator and the fuel tax credit eligibility tool that I mentioned earlier at the link that's showing on the presentation. Now, for some clients or taxpayers, if you claim less than $10,000 in fuel tax credits each year, you may be able to use one of our simplified methods. For example, you can use the rate at the end of the BAS period you're claiming for. This can be handy if you lodge your BAS quarterly and the fuel tax credit rates changed partway through the quarter. This method saves you from apportioning fuel you acquired before and after the fuel tax rate change. Another simplified method is that if you're claiming for diesel acquired for your heavy vehicle and you use your heavy vehicle on and off public roads, for example, you might travel or idle in large depots or warehouses, and you may recall that I said that that may attract a higher rate compared to traveling on a public road. You can use the basic method. This method simplifies how you calculate fuel tax credits by estimating the fuel used on and off public roads. You can also work out the litres or the volume using the average price of fuel. And you may also be able to use other simplified record keeping. You can find out more at the link shown on the presentation. If the simplified methods don't really work for you, or you're not eligible to use them because you potentially claim more than $10,000 fuel tax credit in a year, you can use any method that is considered fair and reasonable, provided that it does not lead to overclaiming fuel tax credits, and you can support the method with documentary evidence. Any method should not result in a claim for more fuel than you actually acquired. If your method is relying on fuel consumption rates, you must be able to support those consumption rates with evidence such as testing. You can follow the steps at ato.gov.au/FTC worksheet. It guides you through key steps like identifying eligible fuel quantities, applying the correct rate, and calculating your total claim. The steps will guide you. However, it does take a little more work and attention to detail, especially if you're claiming for multiple fuel types or periods. You claim fuel tax credits by completing the fuel tax credit labels on your BAS the same way you claim GST credits. You may recall that I mentioned that once you've registered, you will need to register in order to see the fuel tax credit labels on your BAS. You can claim at the time you acquire the fuel, but you must claim within 4 years from the day after the BAS for that tax period was due. It is important to keep complete and accurate records to substantiate your fuel tax credit claim. You must be able to show how much fuel you acquired, how it was used in your business, and how you calculated your claim. Without all your records, you may have to repay credits and could face penalties. It's also important that you use consistent methods from the start of your business activity to make it easier. Poor record keeping is an issue for some businesses. Make sure you record fuel purchases, usage patterns, and calculations that you've used to determine your fuel tax credit claims to help you calculate your fuel use and claim fuel tax credits correctly. The ATO has a number of safe harbours, which are pre-approved methods that we accept for specific scenarios, such as the simplified methods I mentioned before, to simplify your claims and so you can be more confident in your reporting and that you're using the correct rates for your activities. Our website includes a number of practical compliance guidelines and other public advice and guidance products which may be relevant to your situation for more certainty in your claims. A number of those documents are listed in the presentation. Another common area that we see with some businesses is misclassifying their vehicle type or activity. To prevent this, double check whether your vehicle is classified as heavy, that is having a GVM greater than 4.5 tonnes, or a light vehicle, and confirm whether the activity is on a public road or off a public road. If you are using or considering using a system that is based on global positioning system or other telematics, check the ATO website to see if your GPS telematics system used in your business is covered by a class or product ruling. These have been reviewed by the ATO. Use reliable GPS telematics systems that are certified by independent entities to ensure accurate location tracking. Poor quality GPS data can lead to incorrect claims. Using satellite modems in remote areas where mobile coverage is limited will also help. Make sure you review your apportionment methodologies regularly and ensure your methodology is fair and reasonable to support your claims and that you remove ineligible fuels and activities. It's important to note that you cannot continue to use a methodology without reviewing it for a significant period of time. You need to ensure that it reflects your current business operations. So to wrap up, fuel tax credits received as part of your business income are assessable for income tax. So you will need to include the amount of any fuel tax credits that you receive as assessable income in your tax return. Check your fuel tax credit claim before you lodge your BAS and make sure you're claiming all the credits you're entitled to. But it's also important to make sure you're claiming accurately and confidently and have the records you need to substantiate your claim. Save time and stress and use our handy ATO tools, such as our eligibility tool and calculator, and our other guidance and class or product rulings to help you. We also have a summary of tips at ato.gov.au/FTC tips to help you get your fuel tax credit right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for listening.